I moved away from my hometown in Minnesota over 12 years ago, but I still get excited whenever I meet someone else from Minnesota or even just see a Minnesota license plate. Even if I don't know that person or even think I might like them, I feel a connection. Here is someone who will know what hot dish is, who will be able to use oofda properly in a sentence, and who will understand why Duck Duck Gray Duck is a far better game than Duck Duck Goose. Ask me about that after the service if you're curious. Our connection to a place, a home, links us to one another, even if we have nothing else in common. This is so often the way of building relationships with one another. We seek those commonalities that bind us together. When we first meet someone, we wander around in the realm of small talk, hoping to find that spark of connection that will take us deeper into conversation, that shared interest or profession or place. We long for that connection, for seeing ourselves in each other, for knowing that we are not alone. I often wonder if our search for these surface commonalities, for these connections of everyday life, is all an effort to affirm what we know to be true in our heart, that we are, in fact, connected, even when we feel apart. We say these words in our service each week after our shared joys and sorrows. The mystery is we are connected, even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in the common life that makes of the many one. These words have been a part of the service since, I believe, long before I arrived here. When I first encountered them, I wondered many things when they were new to me. I wondered about the origin. I wondered about their role in the service. I wondered what meaning they have for each of you. And when I first went to speak these words in a service, I wondered, is this the sort of mystery that I am supposed to bow my head for? This is an eternal question for me when it comes to those prayer-like moments in worship, and these words are the closest to prayer that we get here on a weekly basis. I've never really connected with the whole bowing your head thing in prayer experience, but sometimes that's the expectation, and when you're the worship leader, people notice. And so at first I wasn't sure, and I didn't want you all to think I wasn't reverent enough after all. I think I actually went back and forth my first year or maybe more. One week I'd kind of look down as I said the words, and the next week I'd look up and out, maybe out the window, not at anything in particular. And then one day I started looking out at you. And I saw the truth of those words, looking out at you. The mystery is we are connected, even when we feel apart. It has since become one of my favorite parts of the service, which is why I jumped at the opportunity to talk about it today in our month of mystery. To me, these words speak to the heart of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. Now, whenever I use the word faith in a group of Unitarian Universalists, someone inevitably asks, what do you mean by this faith thing? Is this something that we are supposed to have as Unitarian Universalists? It's a fair question. My favorite definition of faith comes from a quote by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He says, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. To put your faith in something implies that you are uncertain, that there is mystery. We wouldn't need faith if we had undeniable proof. Faith is putting your trust in something even though it remains ultimately mysterious to you. As Unitarian Universalists, we have faith in each other. We have faith in the power of community, in the idea that we are better off together than we would be alone. We have faith that in coming together, we can nurture our spirit and help heal our world. We are not a solitary faith, but rather a faith grounded in our relationships, in those connections. We don't always understand those connections. We don't always know where they come from, where they begin, where they end, but we have faith that we are connected. As we say, the mystery is we are connected, even when we feel apart. UU minister Kristen Harper describes our faith in each other like this: I do not wish to breathe another breath if it is not shared with others. The breath of life is not mine alone. I brought myself to be with you, hoping that by inhaling the compassion, the courage, the hope found here, I can exhale the fear, the selfishness, the separation I keep so close to my skin. I cannot live another moment, at least not one of joy, she says, unless you and I find our oneness somewhere among each other, somewhere between the noise, somewhere within the silence of the next breath. The mystery of our connection with one another is like any mystery. It's not something you can see or hear or taste or touch in any tangible way. It's not something you can prove. But I believe it is something you can feel. You can feel it in your body, in your heart. When I think of the moments of transcendence in my life, they have all been moments when I've really been able to feel that connection. Not necessarily in a way I can explain, but nonetheless in a way that is real. Before becoming a minister, I worked with a youth group down in Boston. We met each Sunday evening and always ended our gatherings in the same way. We'd all sit in a circle and turn down all the lights and light candles of joy and sorrow, just like we do here on Sunday mornings. The youth would crawl to the center of the circle and sit by the bowl of sand and candles as they spoke. They shared deeply about the joys and pains of being a teenager, and you know those are many. They opened their hearts in the quiet dark. Whatever they shared was held by that circle, held in the spirit of love. Now I know that there were some youth who waited all evening for that last 15 minutes of candlelight. That's why they came. For me, those 15 minutes were tender and beautiful, and the spirit of in the room was all the evidence I needed of our connection to one another. As Kristen Harper wrote, I brought myself to be with you, hoping that by inhaling the compassion, the courage, the hope found here, I can exhale the fear, the selfishness, the separateness that I keep so close to my skin. Where have you seen evidence of our connection to one another? Where have you felt that mysterious sense of union, perhaps even with people you don't know, or in a place where you least expect it. One of my very favorite stories of connection in unexpected places, it comes from the poet Naomi Shihab Nye. She writes about her experience of connection in an airport in a piece called Gate A4. She writes, "Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning my flight had been detained 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately." Well, one pauses these days. Gate 4A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing loudly. "Help," said the flight service person. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her her flight was going to be late, and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke to her haltingly. The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "You're fine. You'll get there. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son, and I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and would ride next to her, Southwest. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons just for fun. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they had 10 friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up about 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling about her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled out a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, out of her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out the free beverages from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving us all apple juice, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I looked around at the gate of late and weary ones and thought, this is the world I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in this gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. The mystery is we are connected, even when we feel apart. In the face of a culture that too often seeks to keep us separate, that tries to convince us that we need to fear one another, we need our faith in each other now more than ever. We need to be reminded of our connections with one another. We need to be reminded of the spirit of love that springs forth when we gather. It is that connection with one another that holds us and sustains us, even in the most difficult moments of our lives. May we remember that, in the words of Robin Wall Kimmerer, my breath is your breath, and your breath is mine. It's the great poem of give and take, of reciprocity that animates our world. May our connection with each other give us hope when hope is hard to find. The mystery is we are connected, even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in the common life that makes of the many one. So may it be.